Hey, hi, hello, it's me, Mason. I'm editing the video and I realized that during the recording there are some really garbled kind of messed up parts. I was in the process of moving when this episode was recorded, so I think my internet was a little crappy. I'm sorry in advance. I promise it only happens for a little bit, a couple of times, and I hope that that's okay. Anyway, please enjoy the video regardless. Welcome to Put Your Cards on the Table, the only podcast that's going to absolutely ignore everyone's warning of no spoilers. I'm back again with Isaac,
Hello, hello.
and we're gonna go over some of the spoilers today. Who could have
Yeah,
seen
we
that
have
coming?
we have now seen the face commanders for all four of the upcoming pre-constructed decks for the Commander Masters set. Very exciting stuff. We had seen the deck archetypes already for a while, which were an Abzan enchantment deck, a Jeskai Planeswalker deck, a colorless Eldrazi deck, and a 5-color Sliver deck. We've known that for a little while. Finally get a glimpse at the commanders that are going to be leading the charge of all four of these decks into battle. Got some pretty cool stuff here. Very excited to talk about it.
And a couple of reprints as well confirmed. Only a couple right now,
Just a
but
couple.
I kind of want to go once we get the full deck list. I would love to talk about some of the new singles because I
Yeah.
am sure that a ton of new commander cards are coming out, especially supporting these four archetypes. So
hmm
very exciting stuff. Do you want to go ahead and start us off here, Isaac?
Yes, I would love to. So the first one we're going to discuss is the commander for the Abzan Enchantments deck. That is Onyxia, Hand of Erebos. She is a 5-mana, 4/4 legendary enchantment creature with the demigod subtype. She costs 2 generic mana, then a white, a black, and a green. She's got Menace. She gives all other enchantment creatures you control Menace. And her fun little ability is that whenever Onyxia enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to one target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature in addition to its other types.
Yeah. We get some pretty cool stuff. Probably the biggest one being Abzan enchantments could definitely use some supports. Some
Huge.
because
This
it's a
this is
great
an
archetype.
archetype that yeah, this is an archetype that people have I mean already played for a long time, but haven't really been a real commander for. We had a little bit of like minutes with Miracle the Lord of Bones, if I remember correctly, from one of the Forgotten Realms sets, who does interact with enchantments technically and is Abzan, but it really didn't quite scratch the itch for a lot of people. And Nixia really gives us something that while I would say that this is probably not the peak of what I would want from Abzan enchantments, this gets the job done, and there's a lot of really fun uh, interactions particular to this card that I find to be really exciting. So one of the big things for me is that you have a solid choice here between you can play a lot of enchantment creatures and get some of the value out of it that way because she's already interacting with all of your enchantment creatures. And she can target creature enchantments as well in her other ability in
Yeah.
the graveyard. She can make token copies of those.
As long as they're not
Um,
auras, so
as long as they're
anything
not auras,
else.
that's right. Or you can just play a lot of enchantments and then start reanimating them as creatures from your graveyard when you need to, start beating down. You can also do a fun blend of those two things, but it's just great to have any commander in these colors to play for this archetype because you get all of the enchantress effects from green,
Mm-hmm.
you get the single enchantress effect from white, and the multiple enchantress effects from green-white, and then all of the oodles of enchantment support that white has, and then you get Doomwake Giant, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
really,
that's true.
really the linchpin. And you might say, well, Isaac, that's not enough of an argument for one color. Yeah, well, go play with Giant, come back and tell me that again because you're not going to be able to. That card's amazing.
No, yeah, I think that this is really, really good overall, right? I think probably the commander that we're least excited about overall, like just from this set, but by no means boring. Like she's a
Yeah.
very cool engine in very cool colors. And also, you can put like Raise Dead enchantments into your
Mhm.
deck and then
Oh,
bring them
man.
back as
I didn't even
creatures.
think about
Yeah,
that.
isn't
That's
that
sweet.
fun?
You can't
Isn't
use
that
like
cool?
Animate Dead because it is an
Yeah,
aura,
that's an
but
aura.
there are various enchantments from over the years that effectively work like Animate Dead that are
Yeah,
not
that are
auras.
not.
That's really
Indeed.
clever.
Yeah, isn't
You know,
that fun?
there's a little bit of secret tech for this commander too.
Indeed. You can get
Zombie tribal.
all kinds of crazy stuff as well, like All That Glitters Is Gold from White.
Mhm.
Grabbing that and slapping it into any enchanter deck is always fantastic. Just beat people down. And also enchantment creatures you control have menace. Thanks, Onyxia. So they're even
Yeah.
harder to block.
Or you can play zombie tribal.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as well. Call of the Grave. That's an
That's
enchantment.
right.
You can
Endless
bring
Ranks of the
that.
Dead. That's an
Yeah, that's
enchantment.
an enchantment. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I think the things I'm most excited about for this commander would be like enchantments that have enter the battlefield effects, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Something like Endless
Yeah,
Ranks of the
kind of
Dead.
similar to what we saw with Gen Arcanum Weaver, where you're taking a lot of advantage of like pulling enchantments out of your graveyard,
Yeah.
putting them back in. Not a lot of putting them back in because
No,
things
yeah, because
exile
it
them.
exiled them.
Um,
Yeah.
this does play very nicely alongside Miracle Lord of Bones,
Yes, true.
as well. So that's pretty sweet. Yes, they're both exiling stuff from your graveyard, but it's kind of a redundancy type of thing. And
Yeah.
because he's only going to trigger off of creatures dying, right? But
Yeah.
they come back as enchantments, all kinds of fun little twists and turns there, all kinds of cool stuff. Really incentive, and there's also a lot of support in green that sort of overlaps between like kind of self mill and enchantment
Yeah.
interaction. So yeah, there's a lot of really sweet options here. Dredge your little heart out, pull out all your enchantments. Oh man, Farika,
Oh my god, yeah.
God of Affliction, going to be sweet in here.
I think
Hell, you can run both Erebos.
oh yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly, maybe one of the best parts of this card is that it's one of the only like enchant based commanders that uses all three of those colors, right?
It really does,
And
yeah.
like we've seen a lot of green white enchantress, right?
Mm-hmm.
White black, not the most popular, but it's there. A lot of mono green, a lot of mono white. But the thing about having all three is that you can put all those other cards into your deck. You can just run
Right.
Sithis Harvest's Hand in the 99 and it'll
Yeah,
still be incredible, right?
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
I think Onyxia is nothing to sneeze at, right?
Yeah.
I think that she is kind of overshadowed by some of these other options simply as a matter of some of these other options have a lot of hype behind them.
Yeah, exactly.
But Onyxia, I think one of the big things about her, a little bit of a sleeper, just because of the power of simply being able to run all of that dope enchantment stuff in these colors, right? Like we said, people have been playing Abzan enchantments for years. They've just kind of been settling for things like
Yeah.
Mirkul, Carador, Ghost Chieftain, other stuff like that. So now there is a tried and true leader of the pack for that kind of stuff. People are going to be able to do some awesome stuff.
Yep.
Also the fact that it gives all of your enchantment creatures menace, just playing like any of the several, Starfield of Nyx or any of the other cards that just turn all your enchantments into creatures.
Yeah.
That's a win condition now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always
You
been kind of a win
have the number
condition
of
for Enchantress
blockers.
style decks.
Yeah.
But now that they have Menace, that's serious, right?
You have
So
the number of blockers that you have to deal with. You literally
yeah.
have them. Yeah, overall, I don't know how much more I honestly have to say on her. I think that she's fun. I don't
Mhm.
know if I'll build her in a deck, but I'm glad that I am quite sure that some people were hyped as hell to see
Yeah.
this
I'm
card.
one of those. I'll probably
Yeah,
build this one.
I certainly don't mind it. I think she's very
Yeah.
cool. But before we move on to the other ones, let's take a look at just a couple of the reprints real quick.
Oh, sure thing.
We'll just take a slight dip out of hype just to kind of rehype with some of
We've
these
seen 5 of
reprints.
them, right? We've seen
Yes,
5
yes,
reprints.
indeed. We got let's just talk about these top two, right? Sylvala Heart of the Wilds, right? Always a good reprint.
Yeah.
Always a yummy reprint. Nothing insane. We've seen her a lot,
Yeah.
but always good. But then
Yeah,
we
she's been
also
reprinted a
have
lot, but she has a lot of value to her inherently.
yeah.
Her price always creeps back up.
And she's
So
just fun in general
she's
as well.
I would go so far as to say she's excessively powerful.
Oh
I've
my
played
god, yeah.
against quite a few Sylvala decks. Holy god.
Yeah, that card can get insane. Funny little
Yeah.
elf ball.
Yeah.
But then the card that a lot of people are excited about, Personal Tutor, is getting a
Personal
reprint,
tutor.
which is insane.
Insane. This is the if I'm remembering correctly here, this is the first reprint since Portal 3 Kingdoms?
I haven't double checked that. I can real
Yes,
quick.
it is. Yeah,
Okay,
the only other
nice.
place it has ever been reprinted was in online sets.
I will say I'm very glad it's at rare and not at mythic. That's very
Yeah.
exciting. This
Yeah,
card
that's
will still
huge.
be very expensive because Personal Tutor, anyone unaware, it is 1 blue mana for a sorcery that says search your library for a sorcery card, reveal it, then put it, then shuffle and put that card on top. It's Enlightened Tutor for sorceries. It's insane.
Yeah, this is like we said, this is the first reprinting of this card since Portal 3 Kingdoms. Pretty important simply because cards from the Portal and Portal 3 Kingdom sets notoriously don't get reprinted, even ones that are not on the reserve list. We saw our first reprinting of the card Three Visits a couple years ago,
Yeah.
which that card was $200, and then they've
And now it's
reprinted it
like
at
5.
common. It's not, I don't think it's even five
Oh,
because they
wow.
reprinted it at common. It's like a couple bucks, right? And it's just another Nature's Lore, right? It's exactly
Yeah.
the same thing. Personal tutor isn't even the craziest tutor out there. It's amazing in the matter of redundant. Like, right, you're probably not
Yeah,
running
yeah.
personal tutor if you're not already running mystical tutor, right? But like, this is an amazing effect, an amazing redundancy. Is just simply to be able to have a second half of a mystical tutor in your deck.
Yeah,
Astonishing, very powerful, very good in every deck that it's going to appear in.
absolutely. Now let's dip back into the action here, just to cut it up a little, make it incredibly difficult to listen to, and move on to the next commander, which
Right
is
on.
Commodore Guff.
Commodore Guff. This is a sweet card as well.
So,
So, yeah, why don't you go
oh
ahead
no,
and take us away
okay,
with this one,
all right,
Mason?
all right. So Commodore Guff is one anonymous blue, red, white for a legendary planeswalker, and yes, it can be your commander. Of course, it can. This is
Hmm.
Commander Legends.
That's right.
He enters with 5 loyalty and says at the beginning of your instep, put a loyalty counter on another target planeswalker you control. That's just a static ability. Very nice. He has a +1 that says create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with tap, add red mana, spend this mana only to cast a planeswalker spell. And then he has a -3 that says you draw X cards and Commander Guff. You draw X cards and Commodore Guff deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. It's a Super Friends commander that
That's
is
right.
himself a planeswalker.
That's right. There have been many options over the years for Super Friends. This is
Atraxa.
Yeah, this is actually a very popular archetype and very
Yes.
powerful one too. There are a lot of reasons why it can be quite overwhelming on the battlefield to just have a lot of planeswalkers in play, especially if your commander happens to be Atraxa, not only because of
Yeah.
the colors that you have, but that ability gets more and more powerful every time you put another walker into play. Guff doing some really sweet here though, having a little bit of a pseudo Atraxa effect with his
Mm-hmm.
passive ability, but also coming out at 4 mana. He's got 5 loyalty right away. 6 if he uses +1, which is going to help you put out more planeswalkers, right? Not only that, but it's a creature, so if
Yeah, it
you don't
makes a
tap it for
blocker.
mana, it makes a blocker. You can protect your planeswalkers. And then not only that, he himself is a win condition. His -3 deals damage to each opponent, gives you card advantage as well. This is a solid card.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously I think that the best pick for Super Friends in the past has probably been Atraxa. I may or may
Absolutely.
not have an Atraxa Super Friends
I
infect
think
deck.
honestly, I think Atraxa probably still is.
Yeah,
Um,
she probably is.
yeah,
But this is a really nice change up. And
yes.
especially for people who want planeswalkers as their commander, because they're a decent chunk of those. But I
I
think
love having a planeswalker as a commander. I think it's so fun.
yeah, it's also very flavorful.
Yeah.
I think overall, Commodore Guff just adds so many more options. He
Yeah,
himself being your commander enables in itself so many more decks of the same
absolutely.
type.
And I'm just so glad that red is included here at all, simply because there's a
Yes.
lot of really interesting cards that interact with planeswalkers in the color red that we don't see a lot of. Like there's that sneak attack for planeswalkers. I think this will
Yeah.
probably be the first place we see it played very routinely, because that card has not been in many decks other than like the most niche of combo decks ever since it came out. Basically, if you're running red and green, you can have doubling season, and then
Hmm.
just the second it comes into play, you can win the game with a lot of cards. But Guff is going to be doing a lot of really sweet stuff.
Yeah. And this character, I believe, was part of Urza's gang, correct? Is what we
Yeah, he was
found.
one of the what are they called? The Nine Titans, I
Yeah.
believe. A group of planeswalkers from the pre-mending era that went into Phyrexia to fight off the Phyrexians during the first Phyrexian invasion of Dominaria. Unfortunately, when who was it? Not Gix, the other guy,
Tevizat?
Yawgmoth.
Oh, Yawgmoth.
Yawgmoth. When Yawgmoth did the thing where he went super duper evil and turned into a giant cloud of death, Guff was essentially turned into dust.
What a
Poor
shame.
Guff. But yeah, he's appeared in a lot of cards before. You'll see him in a lot of art or in flavor text. My personal favorite is he's the big bearded ginger guy from Index, which you might have seen before.
Yeah.
Uh, we love Guff. And
Yeah,
he's got a silly
he's a
little
cool
name, which
guy.
is very fun as well. I love the art on this card too. These like red strips of energy are really doing it for me. I love it.
Yeah. I think this is a really sick card. And also, you can play Narset in a Guff deck, which
That's
is
right.
pretty fucking good.
I'm still holding out hope that we might see a version of Narset printed alongside Guff in this deck, a new version of
Ooh, that
Narset.
would be very sick. Yeah,
Honestly, I think that if we don't, there will be riots. I will be holding a picket at that riot if
that's
that's.
fair.
I would have guessed that Narset would have been the commander for this. The fact that Guff is, I'm okay with because I do love me some Guff. But if we don't see a Narset, I'm gonna be a little
There will be
disappointed.
blood.
There will be blood.
There
That's a
will
good way
be
to say it.
bloodshed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, I don't think that there's like a ton to say about this card, but just like it's cool overall. It's very
Hmm.
entertaining. Lots of cool archetypes. Does some interesting things that, in unique ways that we haven't necessarily seen before, and I like him a lot.
Yeah. Very good.
In between, we're halfway done. Those first two commanders were kind of the ones we had the least to say about. I think these next two will
Yeah.
take a lot longer.
I think so.
But let's hit up a couple more of the reprints in between, shall we?
Yeah,
Uh,
so we've got a couple more to discuss here.
yeah.
Another one that has not been seen since Portal 3 Kingdoms ran out finally a reprint of Capture of Jingzhou,
Yes.
which is huge, just as huge as Personal Tutor, if not more huge. Now this one is being reprinted at Mythic, but it is word for word just Time Warp.
Yep.
It is a lot of cards that we have seen come out over the last 20 years are in fact just Portal 3 Kingdoms cards, and
But
they were just like,
renamed.
right, because I think a big part of that is probably because, like, for example, Capture of Jingzhou, it has very specific theming, right? Because it was
Yeah.
all about like the Three Kingdoms period in China, right? And so to see something tied historically to China in like, you know, Magic 2014 might be a little jarring, right? I think that's one of the
Yeah.
main
Yeah.
reasons we haven't seen a lot of these reprinted alongside Greed. Um, and again, huge redundancy effect. Essentially, every time we get one of these Portal 3 Kingdoms reprints, it is just a massive gap filler for redundancy. Now, the Godforsaken turns decks that have plagued us
Yep.
all for
Yep.
many years have a little bit more availability to cards. Like they're running Capture of Jingzhou anyway. Now you can go and pick yourself up a copy of your local LGS more than
Yeah.
likely.
I
But yeah,
I just think
honestly,
it's
I would.
cool.
Yeah, I would actually like to see more normalization of reprintings of extra turn effects.
Mm.
I don't think that turns decks are fun, but I think decks that have some extra turn cards in them that can be a really fun effect to play. And I think they've got a little bit of a bad reputation because of turns decks. So I would like to see them brought out a little bit
Yeah,
more
that's fair.
personally. That's a fun, a quirky little thing about
I
me.
mean, one of my favorite cards of all time is Temporal Extortion. That card's funny.
That card's hilarious. One of
It
the
make me
funniest cards ever
giggle.
printed.
Yeah, it is one
Yeah.
of the cards of all time.
One of the cards of all time. Just for a little bit of context, Temporal Extortion is a sorcery. It's black, 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 black. It's from the Planar Chaos
Yeah, I believe
block
so.
or the Time Spiral block or what have you, where this was the set where they're messing around with color identity, and so they gave black an extra turn spell. And the way that it works is that you get an extra turn unless any opponent pays half their life.
Yeah, it's funny. You can do some table talk with that. I like that
Yeah.
card.
No, it's even funnier than casting Temporal Extortion.
Hmm.
Copying it like 4 times.
Just asking each person. We'll
Yeah,
just go
because
around the
typically
table.
people will not, like in a game of Commander, somebody will not hesitate to pay that first
Yeah.
like 20 life or whatever. They're like, whatever, I'm not giving you an extra turn. But once you're on the 5th copy, you're like, well, who's laughing now?
You are
Everybody's like, I'm sorry.
you are
You can
down
have
to
the extra turn.
5 life. All right. Are you going to go into lightning bolt range, or am I going to get an extra turn? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And then one more reprint before we carry on. Which one of these two last ones do you want to do? What do you want to talk
Let's
about
talk.
last?
Let's talk Ur-Dragon right
All
now.
right, let's talk Ur-Dragon.
So the Ur-Dragon is one of these other big chase mythics in this set. This card, I mean, it was very popular from the moment it came out, but it crept up in popularity and in price, up and up and up ever since it was first printed in 2017. I believe that if you look at EDH Rec stats, Dragon Tribal is the, I think, most popular tribal archetype
I wouldn't doubt it.
in the format. So pretty massive. And yeah, this card was over $100 um, at the moment of its spoiling. So pretty massive that this is getting a reprint.
Yeah,
I used to
it
have
needed one.
yeah. There's a neat little alternate secret lair version that had like a
Yeah.
cute like watercolor
It's very
art on it.
cool.
I had one of those. Pretty sweet. But yeah, Ur-Dragon backed by popular demand. This badly needed a reprint. I'm really glad that we're able to see it here.
I will say, man, it is a top tier commander. That is a tier 0 commander.
Yeah, this
Holy
card's
crap.
busted.
Yeah. If anyone is unfamiliar with it, I recommend just looking it up because it's fucking insane. Basically, it's an Eminence commander in all 5 colors, and it discounts your dragons. And like that on its own is already fucking insane.
Yeah.
But then if
And
it's
then
in
it has
play, it
more
copies
text.
it. Yeah. It's fucking wacky. Holy shit. One of our friends actually proxied this recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was Scott. No one will
Gotcha.
know who I'm talking about
Yeah.
unless they know him personally. But I have played against that deck. I'm going to blow my head off. It is insane.
No, I get you. Yeah. Another
It
friend
is
that
very
nobody will
fun
know.
though.
Another friend that none of our listeners will have any idea who we're talking about is Wyatt.
Yeah.
Wyatt. He has a vicious Ur-Dragon
Oh
deck.
my god.
He recently used it to teach his wife how to play Magic.
Oh, that's very cool.
She was like 2 games in and was just started routinely just sweeping the
Yeah,
table
that
just
sounds
because the
about
power
right.
the power of this deck is just off the chain.
I
Truly.
will say, like, regardless of how powerful decks with this commander can be built, I'm glad to see it reprinted. Like, it should not be over
Exactly.
$100.
Yeah,
It shouldn't
it's
be
insane.
over fucking $20. It's a piece of
Hopefully we
cardboard.
can see a reprint of Edgar Markov in this set as well.
Oh,
Which,
that would be yummy.
and from the same set of precons, but
Yeah.
also like prohibitively
Insane.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and move on to our next face commander here. You want to take this one away,
Oh, I
Isaac?
would love to. Yeah, so we have got Zuladoc Void Gorger. I am so excited about this card. So this is our colorless Eldrazi commander. 5 and a colorless, or 5 generic mana and a colorless mana for a 7/4 colorless legendary creature with Eldrazi subtype. Very simple text on this card. Colorless spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade. Awesome.
Yeah.
Love this. Frankly, this card could basically look like whatever they wanted it to, and I'd probably be thrilled with it as long as it interacted with colorless spells or Eldrazi in any way. I think it's so awesome that they are pushing an Eldrazi tribal commander. It's an interesting thing. Some people have played Eldrazi tribal in the past, right? It's never been a big thing
Mhm.
because it's a matter of it's kind of the problem that dragons used to have. They do not have this problem anymore. But like that worms have this problem, demons have this problem of these kind of top end creatures where and Eldrazi have this more than anyone else because like dragons like, oh boohoo, I'm a 5/6/7 drop. Eldrazi are like, yeah, I cost 15 mana.
What about
Like,
it?
No biggie. Right. So it's hard to build a deck around, if you're running like 30 creatures of the same type, it's one thing if they're elves and they're all 1 to 3 mana, right? When they're all 9 to 15 mana, you're playing a different game,
Yeah.
right? Um, and frankly, even now, it's probably irresponsible to run that many. Now, there have been a lot of cards over the years now that either like generate Eldrazi Spawn or Scions, which make more mana, which is really useful. Or we have seen some bottom end Eldrazi now as well.
Yes.
So that's really nice. But it's also lovely that we see the sacred Eldrazi number of 7 here.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this appear in lots of other Eldrazi and Eldrazi support cards. So yeah, we've seen a whole bunch of cards in the past that interact with like making things with colorless spells with mana value 7 cost less, or giving you a bonus. I think there's one that whenever you cast one an Eldrazi with mana value 7 or greater, you get to like search your library for another one, or if
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
correctly.
I forgot what that one's called, but
Yeah, there's a couple of lands that interact with a couple of artifacts, a couple of creatures. Really sweet to see some support for that. And I also love that we're seeing Cascade here, because
yes.
since their very inception, Eldrazi have always had a very adjacent relationship in many different ways over the years with the Exile Zone, which
Yeah.
I think is very cool thematically because they are beings native to the Blind Eternities, the nameless and vast unknowable space between the planes, which essentially represents the Exile Zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I
It
think it's
is
really cool.
literally casting things into nothingness or
Yeah,
consuming them completely out of reality, and that's
yeah.
sick.
If you look at what this card is doing thematically and narratively speaking, it's essentially saying whenever you play an Eldrazi, Zuladoc reaches into the Blind Eternities and pulls out another Eldrazi.
Yeah, it's
Is
sick.
really what this card is trying to say here. Um, Super sick.
I also just love colorless support. This card is
Yeah.
completely colorless. In the past, a big reason, an additional big reason why Eldrazi Tribal hasn't been popular is because of the color identity problem in
Yep.
Commander, right? If a card has a colored mana, like the actual mana symbol on it, it can't be run outside of a
Right.
commander with those symbols. So a lot of the Eldrazi cards from more recent sets, of course, had Devoid, which said this
Hmm.
card is colorless. That doesn't fucking matter because there's a colored mana symbol in there. That
Right.
sucks. Or some Eldrazi have like activated abilities that cost colored mana. You can't
Right.
use those either. Almost all of the big colorless artifacts, like the talismans and stuff, those have the mana symbols. You can't
Right.
run that much mana ramp.
And then another kind of side effect of this is that even when you do play Eldrazi decks, and this is something that this has less to do with like the commander rather than this deck will, in theory, have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
colorless and colorless support cards in it that are not artifacts, but there's a massive side effect of because of what the colorless card pool looks like. If you build an Eldrazi deck, it's actually an artifact deck with a
Yeah,
lot of Eldrazi in it, right?
exactly.
That it's unavoidable, simply because 95% of the card pool for colorless decks are artifacts simply because of the nature of artifacts,
Yep.
right? So that's something that we've seen a lot of over the years, and I'm really excited to see all of the non-artifact colorless spells that will be in this deck.
Uh,
I'm probably more excited for that concept than I am for Zuladoc himself, even though I'm extremely stoked for
oh,
Zuladoc.
yeah.
Also, Zuladoc 4 toughness out of bolt range, important.
Yep, yep. Easy. I will say, however, this card will definitely have some insane artifact synergies. You're definitely not going to
Absolutely.
completely escape it, but I also
That's right.
think that's sick.
You
Like,
can play this as an artifact commander.
you
In
absolutely
fact,
can. It
this
just
would
has
be
to be
a
big
very good
artifacts.
artifact
Yeah,
commander.
big artifacts.
There is a what's it called? I believe it's from Brothers War or one of the Dominaria sets from recently. It's or no, it might be from Commanders. It's called Ingenuity Engine, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
It
oh.
is a 7 mana artifact that has Cascade.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's from Commander Legends.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then it has you can like pay 1 mana and tap it and sacrifice an artifact to put it back in your hand. This gives it 2 more cascades.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yep.
I guess honestly, I'll probably run that card in this deck,
I think I
even if it's not
have
an
one.
artifact deck. Yeah, Ingenuity Engine, sweet card, but tons of synergy with Ingenuity Engine and Zuladoc.
I also love the other two characters so far, right? Like Guff, we had seen before.
Hmm.
We know what happened to him. Anixia, as far as I know, is very new,
New.
and we don't really know what's going on with her.
Yep.
But
Zuladoc as well.
Zuladoc, yeah, Zuladoc is new, and we don't quite know what's going on with them. But I think that it has. I briefly discussed this off camera last time. I think it has very interesting lore implications of like
Agreed.
this is probably before the Eldrazi were sealed, right? Like
Yeah.
as of right now, the Eldrazi are not a problem. This is not saying, oh, the Eldrazi are back. That this is probably from the
Right.
past.
With
But
sets like this, we see them all over the timeline.
yeah,
Right. Guff, clearly, he's been dead for a long
yeah, he's
time.
been dead. Yeah. But having another named Eldrazi outside of the big three Titans, this is very clearly spawn of Ulamog from the colors and design. But like having this named, I don't know, maybe we'll get like a story, some more flavor text mentioning
I would love
them.
that.
What if they?
Even if we don't get full-size stories, almost every time they release precons like this, they typically have like a few paragraphs of like a narrative for them. My personal bet here, if I were a betting man, I guess I'll have to get ready to eat my hat if I'm wrong. I think that there will be 3 legendary creature Eldrazi's in this deck.
Oh, that are all named, you think?
This is our Ulamog one. I think they will all be named. I think there will be a Kozilek brood, and there will be an Emrakul brood as well. That's what I expect to see.
Sick.
Again, I may have to eat my hat, but that's what I'm hoping to see here. Also, it's a little fact that I haven't really messed with this before. I hadn't thought of this before now, and I don't think I'm knowledgeable or perceptive enough to determine this, but there is a little bit of land in the background of this card.
There is.
And I'm trying to determine where it might be. It might be just in the Blind Eternities. There's some like spindly spokes on some of this stuff. Could be maybe Mirrodin? I don't think so though. I think we would have known if they appeared on Mirrodin.
If I had to guess, I would assume this is like the like calcified trees that Ulamog leaves in his wake on Zendikar. If I had to guess, that's not to say that's definitely not confirmed, but
yeah. So if anybody's really cracked out there with this kind of stuff, take a look at that. Leave your answers in the comments.
What if Wizards is doing a 10 million IQ move and this card isn't from the past but from the future, and this is going to be like the scion of Ulamog, and he comes back. I don't think that'll happen, but it's cool to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool card. I'm also
a lot of really sweet implications here.
I'm also just very excited in general. Obviously, the whole deck is going to be built around this commander or something else close to it. So we're going to get a ton more like colorless support in general, which I love, and hopefully a bunch of new Eldrazi's to look and ogle at.
Right, and arguably most important of all, Wastes reprints. Not only were these cards way too expensive,
they're basic lands.
Hopefully new arts for them too.
Yeah, because there's like what three waste arts right now or something.
I think so.
Yeah. I think that they're all full art though, which is pretty sick.
They are.
Yes. Zendikar. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm very excited just to see the rest of this deck. I think I'm gonna ogle over a bunch of Eldrazi. Absolutely.
Yeah, gonna be sweet.
Well, before we move on, we've got one final reprint.
It's a big one, ladies and gentlemen.
It is a big one. It's Jeweled Lotus. It's the Commander's Black Lotus.
That's right. The king of controversy itself.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's whatever, honestly.
When this card was first previewed, everybody was like, no thank you.
Yeah.
Put it back, please.
One. Put it back.
Put it back. And then there was there's been so much discussion from the day of its previewing to now of should this card be banned. Well, doesn't look like it will be anytime soon, if I had to guess. You never know. Hullbreacher was banned like a couple months after it got printed. To my great chagrin, taken from my pirate deck too early.
It's a funny card. But
yeah, listen, it's mean in control and stacks. It's fine in merfolks or pirates.
It's funny in pirates, yeah.
That's right. It makes treasure. It takes your stuff and makes treasure.
It's
That's
very
what they're
flavorful. It is literally breaching the hole, but
Jeweled Lotus. What's your take on the Jeweled Lotus conversation?
When I first saw this card, I was like, "Holy shit, that's insane!" But the more I've played Commander and I've seen some other people's takes on it, I'm actually not that worried about it. Like, let's be honest, if you draw this card any time before like turn 1 or after turn 1, what's it really doing for you? Right? Turn 1, you lay down a basic land and a Soul Ring. Who the fuck needs a Jeweled Lotus, right?
Yeah. I think Jeweled Lotus honestly pretty fine.
I was gonna say, don't get me wrong, I think it's a very good card, but I don't think it's by any stretch of the imagination broken.
Right. I think where the thing with the biggest thing with Jeweled Lotus is not a question of how powerful is Jeweled Lotus, but how powerful is your commander,
Yes,
right?
agreed.
Because there are some commanders where if you're able to power it out on turn 1 or 2
Oh yeah,
because
you
you
just
drew a
win.
Jeweled Lotus, you'll just win the game. This
Yeah.
is also true for Soul Ring, which by the way, I don't think Jeweled Lotus should ban. I do think Soul
Yeah,
Ring
Soul
should be
Ring should
banned.
be. Soul Ring
But
should
you
absolutely be
can
banned.
use Soul Ring's mana for anything. This is solely for your commander,
Yep.
right? And so
If you're
I
playing a
think Jeweled Lotus
Norin the Wary deck, you're not running Jeweled Lotus.
right. You're not running Soul Ring either,
Yeah.
probably. And so I think Jeweled Lotus does more net good than harm for the few commanders out there that are like, a mono black like 8-drop,
Yeah.
or something like that. Because ultimately, what this card says is what it really boils down to is like play your commander this turn.
Yep.
Is
Yeah.
really all it says, and you can do that on turn 1. Um, that's not an argument of is Jewel Lotus too strong, because there are other cards that could allow you to do that, Soul Ring included. Um, it's a matter of, oh, the thing that you put into play has simply now overwhelmed the
Yeah.
game. That's kind of a larger conversation about like fast mana. I think most of it's pretty bad. I think this is actually one of the more innocent uses of bad mana. Controversial, I know, or
Yeah.
fast mana, not bad mana.
I mean,
But
and they're
but
interchangeable.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think most fast mana pretty lame. Jeweled Lotus. I mean, I'm not gonna say that I'm like in love with it.
No.
I think I'd
But
probably prefer a world where it had never been printed. I
I
don't think it
agree.
needs to be banned though. I think it's
I
fine.
wholeheartedly agree. I will
Yeah.
also say, like, regardless of our very hot take of Jeweled Lotus not being that good, it also shouldn't be like $100. So I'm very
Yeah, that's
glad to
insane.
say it reprinted.
I don't even think it should be mythic.
No, I don't think so either.
Cards are. I think this is a rare.
Yeah, I think this is a rare for sure.
Yeah.
Nah, yeah, it definitely needed a reprint. A lot of people will probably not be happy with that. I don't really care. I don't really care. Also, a big part of this is that all 3 of that mana is one color, right? If it just said
Yeah.
add tap, add 3 mana of any color to your mana pool, oh my god, that would be fucking crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of restrictions. Not a bad card, not a broken card. Shouldn't be $100 regardless, right?
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, look at it this way: like, how do you feel somebody powering out their Dragon on turn 5 because they had a Jeweled Lotus? That sucks, right? That sucks bad. This is a 10/10 with flying and an eminence ability, and it puts more dragons into play. That's horrifying. Versus powering out their Zuladoc on turn 3. Sure,
Yeah,
maybe they're gonna get a lot of damage in, but like it's got 4 toughness. It's not that hard to remove. It doesn't have keywords. It's not that big of a
it
deal,
dies to
right?
Doomblade.
It dies to Doomblade, which Dragon does not.
Our dragon does not die to Doomblade.
Yeah.
And in fact, neither does our next commander. And
Oh, what a
I
pivot!
know, what a segue. I'm a master at this. But it is by far the one that I personally am most excited for because I am a bad person and I play Slivers, that dreaded tribe. Our final face commander is
Yeah.
Sliver Gravemother.
I gotta say, I'm not what you would call a Sliver stan. I'm also definitely very much not a Sliver hater,
I'm a Sliver
but
stan.
I have never before seen because I've been around for the printings of several new Sliver commanders. None of them have ever really gotten me to lift my eyebrows. This card's sweet.
Yeah,
This
this
card
card
bucks
rules.
hard. Yeah.
It is a
Take it away, Mason.
Wooburg legendary sliver because that's what legendary slivers be. They be Wooburg.
They do be Wooburg.
Wooburg 6/6 legendary sliver. That says the legend rule doesn't apply to slivers you control. And each sliver creature in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is its mana value. And she also has Encore 5. Now,
Yeah.
let me be clear right out the gates. This card is fucking sick. I love it. It will not be a Sliver commander. There will not be a better Sliver commander than the first Sliver. I'm sorry, it is impossible.
I agree with that, but I would personally I'd rather play against Gravemother and I'd rather
Yes.
play as Gravemother.
That's fair. I think it's a very interesting card from a competitive EDH point of
Yes,
view.
from
You
a
don't
competitive
run this.
mindset. Yeah,
But
from a competitive mindset. I mean, this is going to still go in your deck. There's simply
yeah.
no reason not to put it in. But from a competitive mindset, yes, the first sliver is the best one and likely will always be the best one.
But I do agree.
It's
This
simply.
is incredibly fascinating.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I just said that I do think that this card is incredibly fascinating. I think
Agreed.
it's very fun to play. I agree
Right,
with
because
that.
something for me is that I really don't like playing commanders that have a target on them
Yeah,
because I
that's
like to
fair.
have
That's
my
fair.
commander in play. And the first sliver's biggest problem is that when someone sees it, they don't even have to read
Oh,
its name.
they
They
will
just see that
kill it.
art, they see that gold frame, they're like, "Oh, fuck you," actually.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, your commander will never stay on the field more than one turn
Right.
unless you
Whereas
go
Grave
all
Mother,
fork.
I think is going to do the trick.
Yeah,
Now,
I
I
agree.
don't think this card had to be a 6/6.
I agree. Could have
This
been a
card could have been a
5/5.
5/4. Could have been a 5. I would say
Nah,
this
nah.
card should be a 5/4
It's
is
gotta be.
where
It's
I'm at
gotta
with
be
it.
matching numbers. It's a sliver. It could be a
Is
4/4.
that a thing?
I think there is one sliver with lopsided
Could have been two.
values.
Could have been two. That's what I'm saying.
Could,
I don't know. This card reads like a 5/4 to me. I don't know.
all right, that's fair. I would have
I'm
settled for
crazy.
5/5. But it's very fun. I am a huge sliver fan.
Yeah.
They're my favorite creature type. They're one of my favorite like fantasy races from anything ever. I love them
Yeah.
so much.
Very uniquely to Magic, or very uniquely to
Yes.
fantasy. To let me restart. Cut that sentence. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
get there. Get rid of that.
Very uniquely, this is one of very, very few pieces of the Magic IP that is in wholesale entirely unique to Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Slivers are a part of the fantasy and the narrative of Magic the Gathering that was invented by Magic the Gathering. We've seen orcs in lots of places, we've seen goblins in lots of places, elves, merfolk, all this stuff. Slivers are Magic.
Yeah. And also this card art, holy shit!
It's sweet.
All of the art for these commanders are incredible.
This is sweet.
Sliver Grave Mother makes my cock hard.
Let's
It
talk
is
about
so cool.
let's talk about a couple fun things about Sliver Grave Mother.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
So let's start. We'll start with the first line of text, which is already huge.
Yep.
You could this could be part. This could. I mean, it would need to have other words on it, right?
Mhm.
But like this could be one of the bigger parts of the card by itself, right?
Yeah.
You could just give it like trample on top of this, and this card would be great. uh, Legend rule does not apply to slivers you control. There's a lot of legendary slivers. Well, not more than there are like legendary goblins or elves, right? But like all of your legendary slivers are the best ones,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
You could simply play a deck full of legendary slivers and clones. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, I think there's no reason not to run like some shapeshifters in this deck. I think
Yeah.
that's extremely powerful to be able to even ones like because like most of the legendary slivers are actually going to have effects that don't stack on top of each other,
Yeah,
right?
like
But having
having
two of the slivers that give all of them indestructible though, it's like, hey, guess what? You got to get rid of both of them now.
Yep, for
Right?
sure. Slivers you
Insane.
control have indestructible, and that enough on its own is pretty fucking good.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can get
That's insane.
like that's like the baseline, right? On its own, that's good. But then you can do crazy shit like cloning the first sliver, which is insane. You thought Zuladoc was good for giving Cascade? Imagine all your slivers having Cascade.
That could actually
Cascade.
be that could just be the deck by itself.
It
could
could
just be Sliver Grave Mother, first sliver, and a bunch of clones.
Yep.
And you'd be good to go.
And you would win.
Because
yeah.
your clones would cascade into your other clones that you'd use to just clone the first sliver. Because even if you don't need more cascade, it's still a great body.
Oh
right?
my god, it's
so,
yeah,
that's actually crazy.
Yeah, so you can do some crazy shit. That on its own is already wacky. Ignoring all of the clones that are also legendary, like Sakashima, for example.
Right.
You can just make more slivers of whatever type you wanted, and then copy Sakashima instead. It's that easy. Yeah, so that line on its own is incredibly fun. But then we get the very, very cool sliver line of each sliver creature in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is its mana value.
And this is where it's revealed to us that top part, that wasn't even the cake. That was the frosting.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
This is the cake.
And for anyone unaware of what Encore is, because it's pretty recent, this was the other Commander Legends mechanic,
Yeah, it was
correct?
the original Commander Legends set.
Encore is a cost that you pay while something is in your graveyard, and you create a copy of that card for each opponent that you have that has haste, and at the end of the turn, exile it, I believe.
I believe you actually sacrifice.
Oh, do you sacrifice?
tokens.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Encore itself exiles the card from your graveyard, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in this case, for example, if there was, I don't know, like Megantic Sliver that gave all your slivers +3/+3 in your graveyard, and you pay the 6 mana to Encore it, all of your slivers get +9/+9, and you have 3 15/15 sliver creatures that are ready, that have haste and are ready to swing at your opponents.
Not to mention, puts 3 bodies into play.
Yep.
Right. There's a handful of slivers that allow your slivers to produce mana.
Yep.
That can net you positive mana in a lot of situations because there's some very cheap slivers out there. Also, if you want to do something wacky again, I must always contribute to the wacky. Because of this, you don't even have to play a sliver deck.
Yep.
You can play Xenographs, Conspiracies. You can play Maskwood Nexuses. Name sliver and put whatever the hell you want in your graveyard, and they got Encore. Just saying, that's an option.
Yep. Okay, question. Is Encore only activatable as a sorcery? Yes, it is. Okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say, that was going to be insane, like Encore out slivers that give your slivers, like, hexproof or something, just as a surprise tool. But no, that's only as a sorcery. That's fine.
Yeah.
Still,
Encore is a
very
powerful,
good.
powerful mechanic.
Yes.
Not only for combat, which is typically the way that the slivers are going to win the game,
Yep.
but simply as because Encore generates both enter the battlefield and death
exits.
triggers.
Yeah.
Right. So like one of the initially I think the first like legendary creature we saw that gave things Encore was Arami of the Dead Tide. This is a powerful card. Right. Encore out. I played an Arami deck. Most of the time I was not encoring out stuff to attack with. I was encoring out like Muldrifters, right?
Yeah.
Pay 5 mana, draw 6 cards. That, awesome, fantastic. We love to do stuff like that. And I think that's where most of Encore shines, but in a deck like Sliver Tribal, it also serves as your win condition. When you get to the later stages of the game, you have a lot of mana, maybe you Encore out mana weft sliver or whatever, use all your slivers to Encore out like another giant handful of slivers, dramatic reversal.
Oh my god,
and swing for the win. Yeah, just go crazy. And this card has Encore as well.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Like, even if you're probably not gonna use Encore if it's your commander, you might. I mean, you may. Go
Might
ahead.
as well.
Yeah, it's
here's the
pretty
thing:
funny.
it's 5 generic mana. It's not Wooburg, right?
Yeah.
So easier to pay for. And then after you Encore, you just put it back in your command zone.
That's true because it changes zones from the graveyard. Indeed.
Yeah, there's really no reason not to Encore it, honestly.
Yep. And not only that, like, even if it's not your commander, slap a sliver grave mother into the graveyard. Sure, you got milled, they got killed, whatever. You Encore it out for 5 mana, right? Gives you 3 bodies that give Encore to everything else in your graveyard. You probably already have mana weft sliver out. You tap your 3 sliver grave mothers. Okay, that Encore now costs 2 mana. And now everything in your graveyard has Encore.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's very good.
Do you need 3 Sliver Grave Mothers? No. But do you get 3 Sliver Grave Mothers?
Yeah,
More than likely you do. Yeah. This card is crazy. This is my favorite legendary sliver I've ever seen.
Yeah.
My least favorite one is I can never keep their names straight. They're all so similar. The one Overlord, the one that's tutors for slivers.
One.
Okay, gotcha. The tutor sliver is my least favorite because I don't like commanders that tutor because it removes variability from the game.
I think that's sliver general.
Whatever it is, I've never been a fan of tutors in the command zone simply because you have 100 cards in your deck, but you only use 20 of them when you have a tutor in the command zone. Defeats the purpose of commander for me. Don't like it. Don't like to see it. think it's boring when you have 3 players that are dealing with X amount of variability in their deck, and then one person, you just see them play the same cards every game. Lame. Boring. I think it's fine to run that in your deck because I think that's a sweet silver bullet to be able to pull out. Have that utility. That's a powerful effect. Oh man, he's got the tutor sliver. Let him cook.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, Sliver Overlord is what that was, not Sliver
Overlord,
General,
gotcha. But yeah, Grave Mother is my favorite legendary sliver by far. Like we said, first sliver I'd say definitely better. I think it's pretty easily comparable too.
Oh my god.
What's up?
I completely forgot about the other 5 mana legendary sliver.
Which one?
It's Sliver Legion. The one that says all sliver creatures get +1/+1 for each other sliver on the battlefield? +3/+3 for every
That's
sliver?
The bullet. That's the kill shot.
God.
That's the kill shot.
It's better than Craterhoof Behemoth.
That's far better. It doesn't give trample though.
That's true. It does. Well,
Yeah,
your
you
other
got like
slivers
8
will do
slivers
that.
that do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Holy
I think
shit.
I think it's actually pretty easy to compare this card to the first sliver because they serve the same purpose in your command zone or in your
Yeah.
deck, right? They're both full force multipliers. They both take the number, like they both take your ability to put one sliver into play and generate a way for you to put more than one sliver into play. The difference is the first sliver does that right away the second you start putting slivers
Mhm.
into play, whereas Sliver Grave Mother, you have to either they need to die or you need to pitch them into your
Yeah.
graveyard and you need to pay that mana to get them out, right?
Yeah.
Now, it does, once you've paid the mana, it is actually a better return on
Yeah, you
investment,
get 3
right?
for 1. Yeah.
Right, and they have haste. It's a very powerful effect. However, the first sliver is just rewarding you for doing what your deck is already going to do. It's kind of like the landfall
Mhm.
conversation of like the reason that landfall is so immensely powerful is because all it asks you to do is play magic,
Yeah.
and then you can just close your eyes and do that. Same thing with the first sliver. As long as you're playing slivers, you're getting a ton of value. Whereas this card does need you to like interact with it directly
But
in
I
order to
think
get that
that
value.
adds it's another layer, right? It adds
Yes,
more variance to the
exactly.
deck itself, and I think that's very fun.
That's why I like it. That's
Yeah.
why I like it more than the first sliver because it gives you another layer where your opponents are able to interact with it, right?
Yes.
Because
You can
a
exile your graveyard and then you're fucked.
right, they can exile your graveyard. They can also see what's in your graveyard.
Mhm.
They know what you're probably going to encore. They can also it's a matter of when you cascade, nobody knows what's about to come out.
Yeah, including
It
you,
might not
indeed.
even be a sliver.
It's true. It's true. You might, might pull out a soul ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, for those reasons, I think this card has much less. It's a very powerful. I think it. Sorry about my rambling there.
It's not
Give me a moment
weak.
to rewind. This commander does a lovely job of straddling the line so that it is just powerful enough that you're going to be able to have a blast and be successful playing it, but it's not so overwhelmingly oppressive, I think,
Yeah.
that everybody's going to have their guns out pointed at you from the beginning of the game, right? With First Sliver, their guns are pointed at you from turn 0. With this one, they're going to be like, all right, he's got Sliver Gravemother out. That's a threat. That's a
Mhm.
verifiable, bona fide
Yeah.
threat, right? But there's other stuff going on. It's not the sole focus of my attention. If somebody plays the First Sliver, it's like, all right, everybody drop what you're doing. This must
Yeah,
die.
this thing has to die
Yeah.
immediately. Yeah.
And I don't like to play against that, like I said, because now I have to put now I'm one of the players that has to drop everything to deal with it. And B, I don't like to play as that because then when you boil it down, these are toys, right?
Yeah.
You want to play with your toys. You don't want to sit there and then have
Have your
3
toy
people
die.
team up and kill your toy. That's right. So
Yeah.
yeah, Sliver Grave Mother occupies a perfect place for me.
Yeah, I think that this card is absolutely incredible. Also some crazy lore implications, wacky stuff. But oh,
They
yes,
have the
I remember now. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's
Yeah.
all right. We're 2 episodes deep
It's
tonight.
true. It's true. It's
We
just
earned it.
taken me a bit to think. All right. So earlier you had your gamble on Zuladoc, right? That
Right.
you said you would eat your hat, right? I'm gonna make a prediction here. That I will that I will eat a hat for. And that is that. So far we have had 2 mana producing slivers, Gemhide and Mana Weft. I
Right.
99% guarantee you that this deck will feature the printing of a third.
I think I'd agree with that. I
Yeah.
think some really good wagers I think to make here. Number one, I think we'll see a third mana producing sliver. I think it'll be a more expensive one that'll produce more mana
Ooh,
in a
that would
different
be
way.
fun.
Like maybe a 4-drop that makes them tap for 2. Maybe gives them like a sacrifice for mana. I guess there's a third one. I guess if you count, there's a black sliver where you can sacrifice them for mana.
Yeah, that is true.
But that's
That is
not what we're
true.
talking about. We're talking about mana dork slivers,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, so I think you're right, but I think it'll be like a 4 or 5 drop that circumvents it, that like does it in a different way than rather
Yeah.
than just making it a tap for 1 mana dork, whether it be the tap for more mana, maybe gives them convoke.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Something like that. That's what I suspect. I
Yeah.
also hope/expect somewhere in between those that this will be the last
Yeah.
$5 legendary sliver that we see, simply because I think we've hit critical mass, and I think Sliver Grave Mother's fine. I think it's even good.
Yeah.
Because I think ending on the first sliver would have been bad because it would have overwhelmed everyone forever, and it would have remained the. Essentially, this is almost like dethroning the first
Yeah,
sliver, right? It
this
gives
gives
people
more
another option.
variance.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I think had we stayed on the first sliver, that just would have been the end of it, right? And it
Yeah.
would have been that way forever, and it would have made slivers as a concept much. They would retain that kind of bad rap that they have. And this helps to break that up, I think, by hopefully being really fun and less oppressive.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
but I also think that if they print even one more 5-color legendary sliver, then we're gonna start drowning. I think
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
there's what, like 5, 6 of them. That's a lot
There's
because
quite a few.
you can put them all in the same deck, no matter which one's your commander. It's kind of
Yeah,
the whole point of slivers, and that's alarming. So
agreed.
I think
Agreed.
in theory, each of these decks will have at least one other commander in the same color combination as the face commander. So I think our other 5-color commander in this deck is probably not going to be a sliver. I think it'll probably interact with like
Tribal
maybe the
creature types.
graveyard, or maybe you choose a creature type, have something to do with that, or maybe it just interacts with 5-color cards or
Yeah.
multicolored cards, something like that. But I think it'll be the type of thing where like you probably don't play it as the face commander as this deck, but it's an option for something else because I simply think it would be too dangerous to have another 5-color legendary
Yeah,
sliver.
absolutely.
I think it would be cool to see some other uh 2-3-color legendary
Yeah,
slivers though.
I would love like a legendary shard for slivers. That'd be
Yeah,
fantastic. That'd be fucking
that'd be
sick.
awesome.
And of course you could run those in any of your other commanders,
Yeah,
but then you have a really unique like one card for a really unique sliver commander that cuts out like
agreed.
two of the other
Yeah,
colors.
we don't have to play, and there's
Yeah.
plentiful slivers to be able to play in 3
Yeah,
colors too.
absolutely. Now, I'm very excited also just to see like what new keywords we get on slivers because that's their whole thing. That's their whole fucking thing. And there have been a lot of keywords since the last time we saw slivers. But
Yeah, and a fascinating thing about slivers is that so I think something that would be really sweet to see in this deck would be some as other legendary creatures in this deck, maybe not in 5 colors, seeing like maybe like Volrath or Venser because they were both
oh
very
yeah.
involved in the creation and the propagation of slivers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that would be really sweet. Maybe even a non-sliver creature that is a sliver lord. That'd be awesome.
Oh, that would be super cool.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Maybe they generate more slivers or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, would be really, really
like they
cool.
don't have the sliver effect of like other slivers you control have this ability, but they give an ability to other
Right.
slivers just
Maybe
on
they
their
make
own.
like a colorless 1/1 sliver with
Yeah.
no abilities,
Oh,
right?
like
Because you
Sliver
all of
Queen.
your other slivers,
Yeah.
yeah. So like all your other slivers are already lords. So and now you've got a very thematic move of
Yeah.
Volrath or Venser, or whoever who actually did help propagate the slivers, are propagating the slivers, right? And
Yeah.
then you're getting all of your benefits from the other lords in the deck.
Oh, I like that a lot.
That'd be really cool.
This also just has some crazy lore implications. Like I want to see slivers back so bad. I know it's a hard
Yeah.
thing to do because obviously when you print new slivers, shit goes mad, right?
Yeah, it's tough with slivers. Like I said, one more 5-color legend and we're at critical
Yeah.
mass. We're getting there with regular slivers
Yeah,
too, right?
there's
Because
only so many keywords and buffs you can give before it's like, all right, this is too much.
right, exactly, because it does run the risk of your sliver decks do tend to homogenize,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Every sliver deck does look. That's the downside. Is every sliver deck essentially runs the same 100 cards.
Yep,
um, that's
just
what
the
I do
best
like about
slivers.
Grave Mother because it needs you. It actually asks you to interact with your graveyard, which is all every other sliver commander simply says interact with slivers.
Yeah,
This says interact with slivers that are in your graveyard, right? So
yeah.
maybe you're running your mulches, you're running stuff like that. So I think that's really
Life
sweet
from the
too. A huge
loam.
benefit of this is right, left from the loam. You're actually seeing a little bit of variance in the deck list, I think.
Yeah,
So very exciting for that
I
reason as well.
I love this card so much.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But those are the four commanders. Do we have any closing thoughts? We're going on about 58 minutes, so we're about perfect here.
Right. So I will definitely say, so I'm excited to see. I think a lot of the big swings in Commander Masters are going to be huge reprints. It
Yeah,
seems like
yeah.
they're trying to kind of push that narrative, it looks like. I think they showed us these 5 for a reason. More than anything, even more excited than I am about these 4 that we've already seen. I want to see the alternate commanders. I want to see
Agreed.
them bad. I'm
Agreed.
so excited to see, in particular with the colorless deck. I want to see the alternate commander. I want to see. This is the one where that I want to see the most because it's just the most unexplored design space that we've seen so far. I want to see what kind of stuff they have done with this space of colorless, right? Very exciting to me. That's kind of where I'm kind of locked on and tunnel visioned in there.
Yeah, for sure. I am I've already mentioned how excited I am, of course, to see new keywords on slivers, but I'm also
Mm-hmm.
all of the other ones have really cool support. We might get some new like old commanders, right? Like others from
Yeah,
the Nine Titans and the Guff,
that'd be sweet.
or some wacky new Eldrazi. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
It would be cool to see maybe a mortal of some kind that is like an Eldrazi worshiper that's colorless.
Oh
Maybe they're
yeah, yeah.
maybe they're corrupted by Eldrazi, sort of a scion of the Eldrazi. That'd be very
We
cool.
could do more of the Innistrad kind of Eldrazi where they're like
Yeah,
warping cards. Oh my god,
I
do you
would love
think that
that.
we're gonna get like the merging cards back? What's that mechanic called? Meld.
Oh, meld?
Oh my
Oh
god.
man.
That would be sick.
Oh, hang on. All right, Mason,
We've kickstarted a new
get out your
conversation.
tinfoil hat.
All right.
Is it on?
Yep, it's on.
Crinkle, crinkle.
Yep.
This isn't a prediction. This is purely a speculation. What if for the first time we get like melding partner commanders?
That would be the coolest shit ever. I was about
That
to
would
bring
maybe
up
be the coolest thing.
maybe
Would
the
they have?
partner
Would have?
with coming back.
Well, yeah. I'm saying maybe we
Yeah.
got two creatures say partner with each other, but they also have meld, right? So they're both in your command zone and they meld with each other
That would be
to become
insane.
a greater third commander, right? Essentially.
Because like that was the
I think
issue
at
with
that point,
Brazella, right? Like the two angels that melded was
right?
that you
You
couldn't
can
fucking run them in commander because
right. And same thing with
yeah,
we also had the Urza and the
the Might Stone and
Mishra.
the
I mean,
Leak Stone.
all three of these examples, like you can put them in each other's decks
Yeah,
and meld them, and it's not even that hard. And there's also the Titania that did it as well.
yeah,
But seeing partner with and meld together, I think could be a really sweet angle to take. I
yeah.
also think it would mean that they beat Magic. They defeat
They won.
they won the game at
Yeah,
that point.
I
Yeah.
agree.
So
Uh,
so yeah, those are my closing thoughts, my closing conspiracy theory.
so where do you think Merit Lage is gonna show up in the deck?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I need
And
a second
that's
I need more
all.
tinfoil.
That's all.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for coming by. I'm excited. We'll probably do a second video as once the
Yeah,
deck
we'll
lists
talk about
get
more of the
revealed,
set.
for sure.
Yeah.
I can't resist talking about slivers and
Absolutely.
Eldrazi. So,
That's right.
all right, have a good one, everyone, and until next time.
That's right. Good evening, good morning, whenever you're listening. Have a great day.